beginning. Okay, so Mishlei 20:25, the very, very difficult to translate pasuk, which I think what we're going to do today, or for starters, is we'll read it. We're not going to go through all the translations, so that's just going to confuse us again. So Mokesh Adam Yala Kodesh ve'achar Nadarim Levaker. And let's just go straight to the Mefarshim, okay? Because we'll read it the way they want us to read it. So I did find someone who I think does the best job of like giving us options that we can get ideas from, which is our faithful friend, the Meiri. Okay, so let's look at the Meiri. Meiri starts on our page, but really starts on the next page. So this is on page Tafkuf Ayin Vav. Meiri says, right column, last thingy. Hanigla v'hanister bazeh echad. So the nigla and the nister are the same. Just quick review of the Meiri's nigla and nister. Is in the Meiri Mishlei language, nigla means the reading of the pasuk that is about decision making and results in olam hazeh, like in terms of like like how you make decisions. And then nister is usually about your intellectual life, about learning, or about like sometimes tefillah. Yeah, Yaakov.
I've seen him use those terms in Pirkei and about Torah also.
Oh, interesting.
Is there a general meaning to it?
Well, nigla and nister mean like nister is esoteric and nigla. I looked up the word exoteric. I feel like I've seen that in academics, but I feel like no one uses that in actual language. So so the categories of nigla and nister can exist in multiple subjects. But my question is, does he hold that nister is something different in Pirkei Avos or in Torah than he does in Mishlei? And that I don't know.
I got there's like a Shatz Drush vibe from it.
Right. So in Mishlei, I don't think he would consider the nister drush. I think he considers it as like the main intent of Shlomo. That's the whole golden apples encased in silver thing. That there's a pasuk in Mishlei that says golden apples encased in silver, blah 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 blah, and like I think he learns it that the silver is the outside, which is applying chachma to your everyday, like to your material success, and then the gold is applying Mishlei to your true success. So this knows he holds both are written by design, like that. It's not just drush. Yeah. Okay. So here he says though that they're the same, which is not so common in the Mishlei pasuk. V'hu he'ara al midos adam. This is an idea about man's midos. V'kavana. Okay. So we're gonna follow his reading here, and he's gonna give us several options. Mokesh adam ratzalomer hamidos shehim lo lamichshol ulamokesh. So midos, which are for man a stumbling block and a snare. Okay, obviously he's talking about bad midos, right? Mokesh adam, yashchisu hakodesh ratzalomer haseichel. They corrupt the kodesh of man, which is the intellect. Okay.
That's the what we're saying yesterday.
Is it? Oh, yeah, Mitsuda said that. Yeah. Let me just really quickly catch you up, because so we're doing pasuk chaf he in Mishlei, Mokesh Adam Yala Kodesh Achar Nadarim Levaker, and we spent yesterday just trying to translate the pasuk, and this is one where because of the multiple meanings of Yala and Kodesh and Achar and Levaker, then everyone said something different. So we're trying to approach it fresh through the Meiri, which is going to be on the page after that, which is where we started reading. So we just started that. Yeah. So he's saying Mokesh Adam is bad midos, and they are a snare to a person, and they corrupt the kodesh, which he's saying is the intellect. Okay, let's read this whole thing, and then we'll put it together to an idea. Umikol makom, you see where we are? Meiri on the right. Here. Okay, yeah, yeah. So on the right column, Meiri, right side. Yeah, four lines down. Umikol makom yesh tikva alzeh. Nevertheless, there is hope for this, meaning if you corrupted your intellect, don't worry. Why? A person should strive, if he's in that situation, to subdue his inclination to the extent that he will return to the middle paths. Okay, this is using Rambam language. And the best solution for this, the best remedy for this, is to withhold from yourself things in a strong way. The geder, I wonder if that's a typo. I wonder if it's supposed to say neder, right? Neder would make more sense here, right? v'neder ushvua v'isar, with vows, oaths, and prohibitions. Kederach she'amru Chazal al menias ha'avera, like Chazal say about preventing sins. Mishi yitzro takvo lavor avera yehi kofetz v'nishba aleha. So someone who's this is the opposite of what we were saying yesterday, right? Someone whose inclination overpowers him or is threatening to overpower him to transgress an avera should leap upon it, or should leap, I guess, not upon it. Oh yeah, leap and make an oath upon it. So this is what I meant yesterday, Ari, when I was saying how like Chazal do encourage you to make Nadarim and Shavuos as long as they're for the right reasons. It's not that Nadarim are always bad, you know.
Yeah, I have to remember what we did for Pasuk Shiro.
Yeah, that's the I think that's like the one Sunday share that I did not listen to from Pesach. I meant to listen to it, but I forgot. Yeah, David.
Does that work?
So hold on, let me just make sure. Just one. Yeah, hold on. So let's just do a couple. Just finish it off, and then we'll discuss it, and try to fit into the pasuk. V'chein amru, and they also said nadarim siag leprecious. This is another example in Pirkei Avos. They say vows are a fence for precious is separation. They usually translate precious as abstinence, but I feel like in the English language, abstinence has specifically like sexual connotation. Precious in Chazal meant precious from like all taiva or all like excess pleasures, you know. Glomar, meaning to say, im nimshach achar redifas ataivos. There you go. If a person is drawn after chasing lusts, desires, yachnia yitra b'chozak uvekiyum. He should subdue his yetzer with strength and with persistence or permanence. Lindor neder lahazir derech refuah. To make nadarim, he's borrowing the lashon from the pasuk by Nazir here, to make a vow by way of remedy or healing. And through this, he will succeed in preventing himself from being drawn after his evil nature or his nature for evil. Okay, now he reads into the pasuk, and then we'll analyze. Umilas levaker. What does the word levaker mean? Inyan hasmada. So no one said that we read yesterday. Levaker is perpetualness. Okay, perpetuity is like on a continual basis. Kederech bikur tamidi. Okay, like a constant checking, constant vigilance. V'yala inyan hashkasa. Yala means corruption. Milashon divrei lau. Yeah. Okay, so let me just summarize, and then we'll try to analyze. Right. So he's saying, let's just read it in the pasuk. Mokesh Adam Yala Kodesh. The snare of a person will corrupt Kodesh. And he's saying the snare of a person is the bad midos of a person will corrupt his intellect. Okay, so that's one thing we have to understand. What does he mean? How exactly do bad midos corrupt your intellect? I know that sounds like an obvious question, but we have to.
Yes, that's what we were saying yesterday.
Yeah, I just want to summarize first, then we'll analyze. The achar nadarim levaker, and after nadarim, he should. Levaker, he says, bikur tamidi, and it's inyan hasmada. He should be constantly involved in nadarim, I think is how he would say. He should be constantly involved in nadarim. And what he's saying is basically, this is in line with Chazal, where if you find your yetzer overpowering you, then you should basically like nip it in the bud through nadarim, like prevent yourself from even getting into the situation where you're going to give in. And that will be a refuah. Now, I'm just questioning here, refuah. He does not mean like refuah in the sense of doing tshuva. I mean, you're doing tshuva. In other words, he's saying it's refuah in the sense that it gets you back to the middle path. That's what he said earlier. Yeah. Okay. What were you saying, Ariel?
So yeah, we were saying yesterday about Mokesh Adam Yala.
Yeah.
The snare.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying that like the snare is like it can lead you to do other negative things.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it doesn't sound like he's learning it that way, though, right? Because he's saying that it's not that it leads you to do other bad things; it's that it itself is bad in the sense that it corrupts your intellect. Meaning, he's not saying it leads you to do bad actions.
Corrupts your intellect.
Yeah. I mean, he seems to be saying that the badness we're concerned about here is not that you're going to make further bad decisions. You miss everything. I'll fill you in. Let me just no, saying let me just fill you in really quickly. And then we'll get back. So we did the Meiri.
Okay.
Meiri says, don't look at the Meiri, just look at the pasuk. The snare of a person will corrupt Kodesh, right? So snare is bad midos.
Right.
Kodesh is seichel, your intellect. So bad midos will corrupt your intellect. The achar nadarim levaker, and he says, and you should constantly be involved in nadarim because that's what Chazal prescribed for getting you back to the middle path. And that's what we're constantly, meaning that I guess in any situation where your Yetzer is going to overpower you. So we're trying to figure that out. And Ariel is just asking about something, and we got Yaakov and David. Yeah.
No, I get it.
Yeah, you got okay. Yeah, Yaakov.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
One, and this might be beyond the veil.
Yeah.
How does he get this out of the puzzle?
You know what? I'll tell you. I'm glad you gave that a little out there. Given how difficult it was to get stuff out of the Pasuk,
Yeah.
I don't even want to touch that question.
Is that a question you normally ask you about?
It is, but I'll tell you why I also don't want to ask it. One of the reasons. Oh, I didn't do the what do you call it? Okay, is there a name for the internet thing where you do the rankings with like S and then A, B, C, D?
Yeah, it's here.
Yeah, so I've wanted to do that with Mishlei commentaries, right? So Meiri is in my S tier, and one of the reasons he's in my S tier is because one of the things he does is he will give several readings of the Pasuk, and so he doesn't hold that this is the only way to read it. He's just saying that this is a possible read. So in other words, like you get other Mefarshim who will insist that like the other reads are wrong, So that's another reason why like I'm not so concerned with how he gets it. As long as look, he brings like Lashon from Psukim, we're gonna go with that, And for the Kodesh thing, it makes sense. Like, what is the Kedusha of man? The only thing that is actually Kodesh is separation from the physical. The only part of you that's not physical is the Seichel, So like, and if Yalla means corrupt, and if you ask what corrupts the Seichel, like I don't think it's like a far-fetched reading, Yeah.
Okay. Second question.
Yeah.
Does this idea contradict other Sukkim, even in Mishlei and Kolas and other Chazal, that's Nidrim are dangerous? And like quickly make them?
So I wouldn't say that it contradicts them. I would say that like I said yesterday, Nadarim and Shavuos are a double-edged sword. That they're a remedy and a danger. And if you want to be like the Rambam or use a muscle from the Rambam, medicine is also the same way, right? Is if you are a healthy person and you take medicine, it can make you sick. But if you're a sick person and you take medicine, it can make you healthy.
You mean like you're already down, therefore like there's a chance that it will correct.
Right, meaning the point of medicine is to it's to change the state of the body.
Okay.
So if your body is in a bad state and the medicine is changing it to the equilibrium, then that's good. But if you're in a state of homeostasis, like your body's functioning perfectly, the medicine can throw it off.
Except for the vaccine.
Not to open another can of worms. Yeah.
Back up my question.
Yeah.
I think the Rambam says that you shouldn't try to make them dark constantly. It could be like a lab.
Right.
Like a strong, like back to pocket.
Right. Yeah, he does say that. And then also though puts in a good word for Nadarim at the end of Hilchos Nadarim, right? Which I'll read after. W, you want to say anything while I'm looking this up?
Understanding of your question.
Yeah.
When you said that you should be involved in the Nidrim meetings.
Yeah.
Is that saying you should constantly be making Nidrim, or you should set up like 1 or 2 or 3 Nidrim and then constantly be involved?
It's a good word. I mean, it's a good question. I would be inclined for the latter. Like that makes more sense to me. Meaning, because he also says, what did he say was? That's okay.
So you're making 15 Nidrim in general.
Yeah, that's probably not a good idea. Yeah, and it's funny because there are other Mefarshim, which we're not going to get to today, who said that one of the problems that this is talking about is that Achar Nadarim Levaker means it's a snare to make Nadarim because you're going to forget about which Nadarim you made, and then you're going to violate them. If you're making a bunch of them.
So meaning Yalla Kadosh is Nadarim also.
For them, I think for that interpretation, then it is for Nadarim also.
Wow.
Yeah, like one of the things we said yesterday. But regarding your question, David, I think it sounds like he's saying that the Tamidi thing is that Nadarim will set you up in a way where you have a constant source of protection. Not that you should be constantly making Nadarim.
Okay.
Yeah. I just want to read this Rambam really quickly because it's probably relevant. This is at the end of Nadarim. And he says, Misha, oh, you know what? I should put this on the screen. Hold on just 1 second here. Sorry about this. Got to cater to. Yeah. All right. So this is in Hilchos Nadarim, and it's the very last.
Also to the girls who are watching on YouTube.
Yeah, my mom's a big watcher.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I was wondering who that one person is. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's actually 5 people now. Okay, so the Rambam says Misha Nadar. I bet Rav Pesach talks about this in his in his neder shir, but so I don't know what he says on it, but just straight reading of the Rambam here. Misha nadar nadarim k'dei l'chonin deosav l'sakin masav. Someone who makes nadarim to orient his deos, I don't know, l'chonin, to prepare, to set up his deos, l'sakin masav, and to fix his actions. How I say na emushubach. It's beautiful and praiseworthy. Ketad. How so? Mi kagon misha haya zolil v'asar habasar alav shana oshtaim. So someone who is a gorger, a meat gorger. Can't get enough of that basar, and he well, not just protein, right? He's not a tofu person. So, and he prohibits meat upon himself for a year or 2 years. Omishaya shoge b'yain, or someone who is we would say addicted to wine. V'asar hayain al atmo zman meruba, and he prohibits wine on himself for a long time. Osha asar hashikrus l'olam, or he prohibits drunkenness. It's interesting. He says two options here, right? If you're addicted to wine, you could it is a slippery slope, right? yeah, that's neder that's easy to violate, right? If you only are usher shikrus but not yayin. Yeah,
I would use that one as an example when
it's strange. It's very strange. Yeah. Okay, shalmonim when I first read it, I thought it meant fatty food. I don't know why. Oh, I think it was shaman, but shalmonim I think are bribes, and someone who's chasing after bribes and he just wants to make tons of profit. And he prohibits gifts upon himself, like accepting gifts. Or he says, I'm not going to accept gifts from people from that city, that place. Someone who is haughty in his beauty, Vinadar benazir, and he becomes a nazir. Classic case. And other nadarim like this. Kulan derech avoda l'Hashem hein. All of these are service to Hashem. Right, and that's what Chazal were talking about when they said a fence for abstaining from taiva is nadarim. The afal pishein avoda, even though they are a service to Hashem, lo yarbe adam benidre isur. A person should not be excessive in vows of prohibition. Which it's interesting. He says vows of prohibition because it leaves the door open. Maybe vows of tzedakah, it is a good thing if you do a lot of, or vows of korbanos. But he says specifically nidre isur. Below yargil asmo b'hem, and he shouldn't accustom himself in them. Don't get into the habit of making nadarim. Ela yifrosh midvarim sheroy lifrosh behen below neder. Okay, you should separate from these things that are proper to separate from without a neder. Amr Chachamim said kol hanoder kilu banabama. Anyone who makes a vow, it's as if he built an altar. I wrote an article on that, but I don't remember what I said. So if you're interested in it, then let me know and I'll send it to you. V'im avar v'nadar, and if he transgressed and made a neder, mitzvah lihishal anadaro. It's a mitzvah to get hataras nadarim k'dei shelo yehei mikshol lefanav, so that it is not a stumbling block in front of him. Okay, and then he says, all right, last part. But midvarim amurim, what are we talking about? Benidre isar. That's for nadarim of prohibition. Aval nidre hekdesh, but nadarim for hekdesh, right, for presumably dedicating stuff to mikdash and stuff like that. Mitzvah l'kaiman, it's a mitzvah to fulfill them. V'lo yishal alehen ela midocha. And you shouldn't get a hataras nadarim unless you're like in dire situation. Shnemar nadarai l'Hashem ashalem. Like we said in Halo this morning, my vows to Hashem I will pay. Yeah. So long-winded answer to your question of what was your question? Oh, right. So he does say you shouldn't be marbid nadarim, but as a remedy in particular areas, it is an advisable and beautiful and praiseworthy strategy.
Right.
Yeah.
This doesn't sound limited though.
This does not sound limited, meaning our pasuk.
I mean, your Meiri is thinking hasmada.
So that's why I'm saying I think David's thing with hasmada makes more sense. That you are what was the lashon of the actual Meiri? Hold on. Yachnia Yitro B'chozik Uvakiyum. That's where I'm getting my interpretation from to support David, is that you should subdue the Yetzer in a way that has strength and permanence. And that's what you're doing with the neder. You're saying that, you're not going to go near, you're not going to have wine. That's like sets up a perpetual precious. Yeah, David, and then back to Ariel.
I'm just trying to read it back in the Pasuk now. It's interesting the strategy he's suggesting going about it.
Yeah.
When you have you have like a problem that you had a bad midah and that started to corrupt your mind.
Yeah.
And now he's like looking at it like the same way that you like got into this trap, the same way you should go out of then doing things, even if you're not actually perfecting your midot yet.
Yes.
But
yeah.
doing actions that will then change your midot, and then from there.
Right. So it's very Rambamic. Maimonidean, yeah, that didn't sound right when I started the word. Very Maimonidean, and also very Sefer Chinuchian. that although you can work on your midos through like intellectual means or through like psychological means, at the end of the day, behaviors will influence your midos.
Yeah.
So if you got into it through a bad behavior, then stopping the behavior is going to be a route out of it. So yeah, it's good. A good observation. Atomic habits. Oh no, Atomic Habits was so 2020. It's Tiny Habits now. Yeah.
I know just Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Taking a second to remember what you're talking about, but yeah.
Yeah, but yeah.
All right, fine. So, can I try to explain Mokish
According to him, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe you could say that the like bad midos affecting your cycle is that you and I can split through examples.
Sure.
Like for instance, let's say you're a very aggressive individual,
Yeah.
right? And you're learning with someone,
Yeah.
and your aggression disables your ability to objectively look at your Harusa's
Yeah.
point of view, and that will limit your knowledge, your intake of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're very stingy, like that tzedakah may be a good thing, but it's clouding your judgment in a way where like you don't see the whole benefit of tzedakah, how it can benefit society and for
Yeah.
the good.
Yeah.
And it'll just cloud your judgment.
Yeah. So that I think is definitely what he's talking about. That emotions cloud your ability to see things objectively. And after I hear what Ellie wants to say, I want to read a Rביnu Yona that like elaborates on that. Yeah.
So I think we might have brought this up yesterday.
Yeah.
Why not just instead of mentioning it, mention something more broad like Tshuva?
Yeah. So it sounds like the way he's learning the pasuk is that like there's two types of advice you can give, right? There's showing a derech and then the showing a technique. The power of the derech is that it is universal and there are many different applications, but there's a liability in that, which is, well, what do I do? Like, it's like the problem that people face as they make tshuva is like, okay, I'm supposed to do tshuva, like, where do I start? What do I do? So it sounds like he's learning that the pasuk is highlighting the top tool, like one of the top tools at your disposal is nadarim. And so you could have another pasuk that talks about doing tshuva from bad midos. I'm sure there are in Mishlei, but this is a different kind of benefit. Yeah.
And how are we defining the thought here?
So it is awkward, right? Because perpetually, yeah. I don't know why he's saying like live vaker like as a verb. I don't know exactly how to read it that way. What pasuk did he quote to support him? To support that reading, Bikur Tamidi, that's not even a pasuk, right? Bikur Tamidi, where does the footnote say? Bikur Tamidi, where does he say that? In Mishlei. Oh, it is a thing. Bikur Tamidi? Yeah, Bikur Tamidi. That is not a Mishlei pasuk. I'm saying that based on intuition. I think you know what it must mean?
Right.
I think both are right there.
Oh, they are?
One's on the side and one's changed.
Oh, thank you. It must mean that the Meiri talks about it there. I don't think that there's a phrase. Anyone want to wager? Yeah, it could. That could be. Yeah. Chosech shivto sone benova ovo shicharo musar. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, it could be that he mentioned it. Yeah. But I just want to read a Rביnu Yona to support Ariel. We read this last year, and this is not in your packet. This is Rביnu Yona on Mishlei 122, and he's explaining why giving into taiva corrupts your intellect. And this is the most beautiful explanation in a Rishon that I've seen of this phenomenon. Okay, I hope I don't oversell it. He says. He quotes a pasuk from Cain and Hevel last night. He says ve'elecha teshuka. Sorry, he says what was it? This is Rביnu Yona on Mishlei 122. So he quotes the pasuk by Cain ve'elecha teshuka so ve'atatim shalbo, that the Yetzer Hara's desire is towards you, but you may conquer it. And then Rביnu Yona says ki Yetzer lev adam ra, the inclination of a man's heart is evil. V'shoel hadavar mimeno, and it demands things from him. Umishtokik shiyitin lo kol asher yishalo einav, and it yearns for man to give it everything that his eyes desire. Now here's the phrase, and this is very CBT. Okay, Ve'ein biyad hayetzer lemalos tishukaso below haskamas hanefesh hamaskelas v'rayona. It is impossible for the yetzer to fulfill its desire without the consent of the rational soul and its thoughts. Meaning that if you have a desire, the only way you can give into it is by somehow warping your intellectual understanding of what it is, of what the thing is. This is the machlokas between Plato and Aristotle about, is it possible for you to do something that you know is wrong, and actually know that it's wrong? Or is, if you do something like that's harmful, it must be that you think it's good, like there's a warping of the mind. So he's taking that side. He's saying basically, like, if you say, oh, I know that smoking is harmful, but I'm doing it anyway. So what Yona would say is, no. Maybe part of you knows that it's harmful, but there's a part of you that is viewing it as good because you couldn't do it if there wasn't a part of you that viewed it as good. You can't actually act against your own interest. So what you're doing, just to plug this into what you're saying here, whenever you act in accordance with a bad midah, you are actually you're only able to do that if your intellect is consenting to it. Yeah.
It's funny you say that because I have seen people, and I do this sometimes myself, where
Yeah.
I know that something's like a gray area.
Yeah.
And your midas, what you should do is kind of stay away from it, but you start rationalizing why it may be a good thing.
Yeah. That's what gets you.
Wait,
Yeah.
so would you say?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. So that's the snare.
Yeah.
That's why it's a snare, because it is
intellect as a shield to what you.
It has, in other words, it sets up a thing where you're going to fall into these traps. Yeah. Sorry.
So would you say that you, with full knowledge of something, you can't act contrary, or?
Yeah, with full knowledge you can't act contrary, but the key is when we say full knowledge, we don't just mean intellectual knowledge. We mean knowledge that's real to your emotions. Right. Like for example, the example that Ryan Moskowitz always used to give is if you're sitting in the middle of a street and you see a car coming at you, you will get up and get out of the way. But you'll also, at the same time, that same person will eat really unhealthy foods, and that could shorten his life by 5 or 10 years. So what's the difference? Well, in the case of the car coming at you, it's real to you, right, and it affects your emotions. And in the case of the food, it's just an abstraction, or you say, oh, it's not me, or your own death is not real to you. So when, and Rami Moskowitz says that's why the Chazal define Chacham as Ezil Chacham Haroa es Hanolad, who is wise, one who sees the outcomes of his actions, meaning not Hayodea es Hanolad. It's not just knowing it. It's almost as if you're seeing it, it's real to your emotions and your senses.
So let's say you see it, and yet you still smoke.
Right. So then there's a part of you that is not seeing it, or that's convincing you that it's good, or that it is convincing you that you're immune.
So it's impossible.
Right.
So it's impossible to 100% see it.
No, you could 100% see it, but if you're asking me if the guy is
possible that he is seeing
that he is seeing it. Yeah. Meaning if he is smoking.
That's what I'm saying. If I claim that I see the outcome of what's smoking.
Right, and yet you're still doing it.
If I'm still doing it,
Yeah.
I'm not fully seeing it.
Then you're not fully seeing it. Yeah.
It's like suicide.
Yeah.
And that's the ultimate, I feel example. It's that's a situation where the guy wouldn't get out of the way of the car.
Right.
And you think, oh, maybe that's the contradiction of what you're saying, but no, not even then.
Right. There's a part of him that views that as not bad or as good. Yeah, Yaakov, and then we'll stop for today. Yeah.
Just to add on.
Yeah.
I think that bad meter also emotion is definitely certain compulsiveness.
Yeah.
Which allows them to overwhelm the other parts of your psyche in your mind.
Yeah.
And it's like the Rambam says that in order to ascertain between two intellectual options, they have to be equal to you. So you have a certain disposition of the difference. And if you have a compulsive emotion, they're not going to be equal to you.
Right. Interesting. What Rambam are you referring to?
It's in the morning.
Oh, okay. Interesting. If you can send that to me later, I want to see that inside. Just by a show of hands, usually Friday we have Q&A, but I feel like since we got shortened to Mishlei, Shirim today and yesterday, and we still are in the middle of this Meiri, can we do Mishlei tomorrow? Okay. And do you know if Rabbi Markowitz is starting up Pirkei Avos yet?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. So let's plan on doing our normal Mishlei time, which is 8:30 to 9:15, and then we'll see where it goes from there. Okay. All right. Stop for today. Yeah. So we fulfilled our goal. We got one idea. He's going to go through a couple more interpretations also. Yeah.